You're on the Six Screens Telenetwork, earning the reputation of giving all the right ingredients, uninhibited, in exposing the hard, cold facts about the Watchtower Society. And now, in Disney.
Well, we've been having really good programs tonight, and I'm so glad you're staying in here with us. We have a program now coming up. Listen, when you were in the Watchtower, did you take the red pill? I mean, many of us did. Well, we have a man coming on from Tennessee, and his name is Eric, and he's formerly from Rhode Island. But Eric's got a lot to share with us tonight. Red pill from the Watchtower. It's amazing how the Watchtower takes space in our mind and totally twists everything. But Eric's going to talk about some of this stuff tonight. He's going to talk about how he was really hurt by this organization. And he wants to speak up and be able to warn people out there that the Jehovah's Witnesses aren't what you think they are. So let's bring Eric on right now. Hello, Eric.
Yes, Rick, thank you.
Well, there you
Good
are.
Good evening, y'all.
There you are.
There I am.
Well, you're there. Here we are. And we're going to get you eventually on YouTube where people can get a look at you and you can become quite the personality. But anything on your mind tonight you're going to be talking about, Eric?
I've got a few subjects I'm going to talk about, some things that I found from jw.org and a little intro to the Red Pill from Watchtower. And I'd like to talk about love is going to be the main subject tonight. Is it conditional? And it seems to be, right? And I'm sure I can get a lot of stories out of people if there's any listeners tonight, and I got some of my own. And let's have a good night.
Well, we're going to have a good night. There's plenty of people listening into the Six Screens tonight. In fact, it's really unusual because, you know, in the wintertime, it's cold and people listen in, but now we're going into the better season, but we still have a big audience tonight. So thank you very much, people, for coming into the Six Screens. So let's do this. I'm going to bow out and I'm going to give you the floor, Eric. So go ahead, take it away.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah. Hello, everyone. How you doing? Well, it's getting later in the night, but the adrenaline's kicking in. Let's have a little fun and I guess be serious too. But yeah, red pills. You know, when I watched that movie, it was like powerful. You know, when you see your reality that you thought was a reality, right? And you take that pill, or you decide to be that critical thinker, and then you see things that you didn't think that would be, like, your reality is turned upside down. And that's what kind of why I named this show that. We all have woken up some way or another. And to anybody who's listening tonight, I don't know if there are any, but if there's any PIMQs, physically and mentally questioning, or PMOs, or PMEs, I mean, as well, just think, you know, I was fourth generation. I mean, and I got woken up. It's not that we're bad people just because we wake up. The truth is the truth, and it doesn't matter if it comes from men. Sometimes self-investigation and critical thinking will get you there, you know. But anyways, I was going to talk about just for a brief moment, Samuel Hurd. He had a talk about the memorial, and it was, you know, it's a typical kind of talk. But I found it interesting that he said that he predicted that they're gonna have about 20 million people for attendance. You know, I just thought that was kind of bold. What happens if they don't get that much? Also said that in the same talk that the anointed are going to cast Satan and his demons into the resurrection. And I've noticed another talk where I think it was a governing body member or helper, I'm not sure, that also said that they were going to be a part of the resurrection. And so they're claiming a lot of things that they do. It's almost like the more that this society goes on, it's almost like you can see that they're unraveling, and that they're showing that they really, it's not about Jesus, it's about them. And I thought that was an interesting point. Also, Gaius Glockington, I think that's his name. If I mispronounce it, I'm sorry. But when he was talking about the memorial, I found it interesting that he basically was focusing on the anointed, and he said we would be doing honor by the anointed ones for attending the memorial. And I'm like, what in the world happened to this religion when I was in the 80s and 90s? It's completely different. It's completely changed. I mean, I don't know how people can't take the red pill. I guess it has to be like a, what am I trying to say? It has to be like a decision that they've made, and it like sunk cost. Like, I can't accept anything because I don't understand how people can't see this. But that's a few things that I saw in Watchtower. And I wanted to bring up one more thing. If you all can just hang on with me for 1 second. I'm going to read something here. All right, I'm almost there. All right, it's Wednesday's text from the Society, and it says, Colossians 3:9, strip off the old personality with its practices. What was your life like before you began studying the Bible with Jehovah's Witnesses? Many of us would be frightened to think about it. I'm not even going to read the rest of it. It's like the fear-mongering is just incredible to me. And when I read that, like I don't even have to read the rest of it. It's like, how can I not get by with one sentence or two and pick on these people? And it's not that I'm picking on them, and I know none of us really are, but it's like the message just doesn't add up. But that's what I came up with this week, and what I came across with Watchtower. Do any of you have any stories or anything that you've come across? But if not, I was going to get into the topic of love, and it was such a beautiful experience with Joe and Fran when I met up with them. And I was thinking, my own family and my wife's family, they can't show us love. They won't even talk to us, not even in the most dire circumstances. But here's these two beautiful strangers, you know, that I've never met before, and they love me and we love them. And what a beautiful thing. And I think it's so sad how Jehovah's Witnesses love is so conditional. And that was kind of the topic that I wanted to bring out tonight, is their love really is conditional. I mean, it's like, think like us, or you're gone, you know, or you're dead to us. And what a sad reality that we all have to face that go through that. Is someone trying to speak? I can hear something in the background.
No, that was me. Hey, it's Gilbert.
Oh, hey, Gilbert.
You go, Gilbert.
Oh, okay. But Grace, you're calling. But Grace is calling from Europe.
I'm sorry.
But I'm on this sheet number now, so I can hold on. I don't have to pay anymore.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, sister.
No, Gilbert, you speak. I will go after you.
So yeah, because just for your information, Grace is from Europe, so she used to call on her own dime. Hey, but listen, one of the problems that we have with Watchtower, like today in the news and everything, and I keep telling everybody, this is what happens when you put words in God's mouth, when you put words in Jesus's mouth, when you put words in other human beings' mouth. Only bad things can happen. So, like, you're not the one going to bring people back from the dead. You're not the one who created anything. And here you are, being dogmatic, and you're saying things and putting words in God's mouth as if he's going to do things that you say. And this is where this is one of the reasons why I think Watchtower is suffering, and it's because of their own doing. If I were to start talking and I put words in your mouth and I keep saying, well, you said this, and that happened today in the Rick Farron show. Rick Farron came back and said, hey. You know, so what happened on the Rick Farron show, you know, with Jimmy Bell, you know, putting words in his mouth that he never said. Watchtower has done that on a nuclear level.
Oh yeah.
On an astronomical, and this is why I say, you know, stop putting words or don't say things that Jesus never said. Just don't say it. And don't say things that God never said. And if you live by those words, that don't put words in other people's mouths, you won't have the problems that Watchtower has. We wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And the shunning policy is just another example of putting words into people's mouths. And so basically at the end of the day, what Watchtower does is they have an agenda, they have a worldview, whatever it is, and then they use the Bible and they to fit that worldview. They look at it from the other way. You know, most people read the Bible.
Gilbert, do you think it's safe to say that the governing body blackmail us with this fellowship arrangement?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like they already have an agenda. It's kind of like a playbook in an NFL game or a baseball, basketball game. There's a book.
This session is no longer being recorded.
And so they're following a script, and they're using the Bible and manipulating the Bible to fit that narrative. Does that make any sense? So
no, it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's almost like it goes in line with what you're saying with 1914. They fit it to their narrative. Like 580 or 607 wasn't 607. He fit it to their narrative, I guess. Whoever it was, Russell or Rutherford. I think it was Russell, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And so that's what I found. You know,
the recording has started.
Even when I was a Jehovah's Witness, I would always say that as an elder. See, I was very lucky. I was in the Spanish congregation, and I would say things like that. Yeah, but I would say things like that in my speeches. But because I was in the Spanish congregation and I was in small congregations with very few elders, I was allowed a lot of. If I would have said the things that I said as a Jehovah's Witness in the English congregation, I would have been disfellowshipped so fast.
Wow.
So, but eventually time caught up to us, and now you know, it's a different religion, like we say, but it's not the same religion as it used to be. But I've always used to say that to people, that if you start putting words in, and I didn't know that I was guilty of it too, but I've always wanted to live by those words. And everything that you've been seeing today on JW News with Rick Barron, that we're talking about Watchtower, especially the funeral in Germany, you see it. It's like, why are you saying things? You know, it's like if in a court of law, I would say, Your Honor, speculation, my client didn't say that.
Yeah, you don't get a voice. You get no voice in their judicial committee. It's 3 against 1 or 2 if it's a married couple, basically, but that's it.
So that's what I'm saying.
In my situation, it's 6 on 2 because we moved. So now you got 6 elders. Yeah. So that would be my advice to all of the Jehovah's Witnesses, you know, if you're listening, or even if you leave the Jehovah's Witness, is stop it. Just stop putting words in other human beings or spirit beings, whether they're humans or in the spirit realm. Stop putting words in people's mouths. And you will feel so much better. You won't be a know-it-all, and you will learn to live and let live.
I tried to get a translation of that funeral, Gilbert.
Yes.
And
Go ahead, Betsy.
I struggled with it because I'm not a German speaker. My French is pretty good. I struggle with a little bit of Spanish. My English is very good, and my grammar is good. So I tried to apply what I knew of English grammar to the funeral that they didn't translate.
Oh.
And he's talking about the infant and the family. And he says, Luftballon and Champagne on glass. So he's talking about welcoming back the infant. And this is what Linda James got out of it too, because I looked for an English translation. So I don't think the powers that be in upstate New York cared for his sermon, because the music was exquisite, but the only thing that they put for their own people was the governing body brief remarks.
Correct.
can I be honest with you, Pixie?
Mm-hmm.
I thought the music was inappropriate because
I thought
it was
the music
fast.
was stunning, and I
thought it was
listened
too
to it all the
fast.
way
It was
through.
too fast. Yeah, but it was very fast, and I thought it should be slower and more.
Did
like
you hear the
depressing.
chamber ensemble do the piece they did that was done at 9/11? They did the classical piece from 9/11 at the end, and I don't
Oh
know
no,
the
I didn't see
19th
that.
century
No,
composers.
I just saw the
but
Jehovah's Witness. What they
I
did.
thought the two chamber pieces with the antique cellos and violins and things. I thought that.
Oh,
was
that's cool.
with it.
Yeah, for sure.
I will say this, Pixie, I was stunned. My brother and I, we couldn't believe it because I go, Jesse, Pixie talked about the Northern and Southern Baptists, and this is all speculation. But why would you want to have one religion when you can have two? And just that thing about Anthony Morris, like Watchtower would do good in chopping itself into two religions. You know, when you had mentioned that.
Well, that's what the Methodists did. The Methodists actually did that. They schismed within their own group.
Catholics and Protestants as well, right?
Yes, but recently the Methodists schismed over the remarriage issue.
Oh, no kidding.
Recently, yes.
Oh, wow.
And the Jehovah's Witness schismed with Rutherford Russell like that. This would be a perfect, perfect opportunity. You know, why keep one religion when you can have two?
Well,
and
also the Roman Catholics recently have policed their own self, and the police word isn't the right word, but the young people have their own news show, and if there's a case where a priest is inappropriate, they've reported on it. So it's like they still want to stay Catholics, but they're aware of the abuse issue, and it could be a hazard to the teen and 20s. So I was amazed by this on their news program.
Yeah, me too. Wow, it was interesting times. It was just a theory, but it blew my mind when you said that. I thought, oh my God, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, and I just read 500 pages on the 17th and 18th and 19th century, and I thought I knew how the world works. The terms left and right go back to the French Revolution days. The notion of nationalism versus globalism goes back to that time.
Yeah.
And what do you mean by left and right, Pixie? Just to help out.
We didn't learn politics as witnesses. We didn't learn politics as witnesses.
Right. No, I didn't. I just started learning it. Yeah.
I stay out of it. But when we have two-party system, we say the left and the right.
Do you mean like the left and the right, like the liberals and the Republicans?
Yeah. So if I could just teach history for a minute, that phrase, and this surprised me, that phrase goes back to right after the French Revolution. So that didn't start in the 1930s or something. Mm-hmm. And also this notion of one's nation versus a global future or dream or something, that's not new either. So we're actually coming out of the New World Order template, we might call it, and we're going into this great reset. And this is what certain factions in the world, and it gets real complex. There's 20, 30 different groups through history, but there's always been people that have wanted this reset. So this is nothing new. This is the plan that many of the elites and all have wanted.
You know, love him or hate him, I learned all of this from Alex Jones. And he said something really great one time, and my wife caught it. And he just briefly talked about Jehovah's Witnesses, and he said, oh, they're paranoid Christians. Because he doesn't try to get too religious because he doesn't want to divide his audience. But when he said paranoid Christians, isn't that what we were or who we are or who they are? Like, always worried about, am I worthy enough? Am I good enough? Armageddon, all of the fear mongering, you know, and what a sharp line that he said, you know, just very simple quote. And I thought it made me think. Come again?
Professor Jim Penton is still alive, and he noted it, and he noted the psychiatric cases of paranoia among the witnesses were much higher. On the flip side, I have to stand up for my old club on one thing. There were over 500 Supreme Court cases that were precedent cases. I don't feel like it's the same group either in a way, because we used to be very proud of the fact that there were these 500 court cases that helped everyone in freedom of religion.
And Pixie, I'm going to answer that question. Do you know why? Because I've said this before. The problem we have in America is living forever. Watchtower talks about living forever. We're supposed to die. Because look at this. Look what happened at Disney. It was a great idea.
I thought as an American I get to live forever. I thought I got that.
But follow me. Look what happened.
I'm jiving you.
Yeah, I know. So when Walt Disney dies, his corporation becomes something that he never wanted. The same thing with Chase Bank. The same thing with Wells Fargo. The same thing with
Disney,
every corporation. So what happens is like the evil spirit.
Can you be more specific, sir? Like what do you mean? Like the Walt didn't want it to be in the direction. I'm not debating you. I'm just asking.
Okay, I'll give you an example. Rush Limbaugh died, and so is Alex Jones eventually. If they do not close down their business, eventually the enemy is going to take over that business. And next thing you'll know, Rachel Maddow is going to be hosting the EIB network, or the same thing with Alex Jones. Because what happens is these corporations, they never die and they become dinosaurs. So the Walt Disney of 2023 is not the same Walt Disney of 1955. Why?
No, but I think you've made a brilliant analogy, because Jehovah and corporation, Disney and corporation is a person, according to Black's Law Dictionary. So I think you made a perfect analogy.
Yeah, because
I do too. And if I could add to you, Disney is failing. They are. I'm a Star Wars fan, and I'm a movie fan more. So if it's not a good movie, I'm not going to like it. They're producing crap. It's woke. Sorry if I'm offending anybody out there, but it's not selling, and their stock has plummeted. Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't have anything to offer. Now they want to take paradise from people, right? They're saying, we're going to tell you where to live and you'll be happy. Nobody wants this anymore. All these companies, all these corporations, they're all failing. They're all failing in this time period that we're living in. Yes, sir.
But you missed the point. The point is,
what's the point?
Because it didn't die and it was given to just the relatives so they could rebuild. Because it didn't die, the evil spirits will eventually come in and take over. So the evil spirits don't care about money. They want your children. They want to destroy you. Same thing with Watchtower. Right. Let's say in the 50s, 60s, 70s, you had some well-intentioned people, but we all know what happens to well-intentioned. But it doesn't matter.
Right.
Now they're all dead. And who's taking over? These people don't care about money anymore. They have plenty of money.
No, they don't. I actually think it's about agenda, and it's not about money anymore.
It is.
At all.
It's about
because
control.
they are bleeding out. If you look at their stocks, they are bleeding out.
But they're also bleeding out.
Even Watchtower.
They're also bleeding out with the people. And so you see what I mean by them becoming dinosaurs? This is the problem when they don't die. The business has to die. The human being has to die. Because if we had people that are 1,000 years old today, imagine how much wealth they would have amassed, and they would abuse us. So it's good that human beings die and move on to the next dimension. Because if we live forever on Earth, we become so powerful that the brand new babies that are being born will never stand a chance.
I got you.
So this is why Watchtower is the way it is, because they don't need any more money. They got it. It's stored away somewhere. It's somewhere else. They care about destroying people. They're evil.
So it's agenda, basically, right?
But
it's basically agenda.
Make a note for yourself that this agenda is not new. It goes back a couple centuries. The book I'm reading is pure history. There's no conspiracy. There's no theory. There's no axe to grind. It's boring, cold history for 500 pages. And the deal is that back when we were on the farm, we were individuals.
Correct.
Even if you were a serf, you were an individual. And what came in was this idea of equality and freedom and liberty, which I would die for. I think it's the best thing to have equality and fraternity. That's great. But there's an undercurrent there that wants to put in a kind of collective, or let's do it for the group. And we had some of that with the witnesses, where we weren't supposed to be individuals. We were supposed to be for the group.
Correct.
And that can be soul stealing. That can just, your soul just feels like it's 2 inches tall. You can't grow. You can't shine. You can't be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a constant pendulum between the individual, the group, the nation, the global, and it swings back and forth.
Yes.
And there's these cycles, and we're in a cycle right now that's got drought in it, it's got war in it, and it's going to have to play out. All the governments in the world can't spin it exactly.
You know, Pixie, I feel like in a way. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, Pixie, in a way, it seems like that you're saying there's a lot of similarities between the Illuminati or the Freemasons and Jehovah's Witnesses. I know you didn't say that, but it just feels like that, you know, like with how you're talking.
Well,
the similarities with the two of them.
The author of this book was more learned than I, and he would say that we're moving out of the New World Order into this reset.
Into this reset, yeah.
This is going to be like something we've never seen, but it's not going to be the free will of the individual. People are going to wish they were back on the farm from 400 years ago.
I believe they're saying that you'll have nothing. You won't own any possessions, and you'll be happy. You know, you own nothing.
Now,
you rent everything out.
Right. There was a man who was a brilliant writer, but he was an evil guy, and his best friend had to pay for his 10 children. He was so much of a deadbeat. And that man was Karl Marx, and he did not want private property. And most of us love private property if we have it, and if we're renting, we wish we had it. Private property is great. And so that's where that is.
Go ahead, Gilbert.
Everything you're saying, I said the exact same thing, Pixie, but I'm going to add that at the same time Karl Marx was alive, so was the guy that about the evolution, the one about the evolution guy.
Yes.
And then about 10, 15, 20 years after these guys were writing, the Seventh-day Adventists, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Mormons, and all of these
Zionism, yes.
So there's something about the mid-1800s.
Yes.
The mid-1800s were very monumental, and you're right, it's like kept away from us.
Yes, and even the architecture switched from the very layer cake Rococo to this very crisp neoclassical. So there was a shift in thinking, there was a shift in the planning for the future, there was a shift in society, everything shifted.
And you know what, speaking of shifting, here in Phoenix, ITM Trading, she's real smart, also Dan Kenya, he talks about this on YouTube, but they all say the same thing, that the Great Reset that we're coming is the greatest monumental shift.
It's going to be another shift. That's my point. We had this in the history of people in 18th and 19th century. We're going to have another one.
Yeah, because people don't understand that wealth isn't destroyed, isn't created. It just changes place from one to another.
Mm-hmm.
It just changes. So real wealth, paper is different, but real wealth just moves hands. So we're in the middle of something great, but a lot of people are very optimistic about it, Pixie.
Yeah.
A lot of people are saying it could be, under the right circumstances, it could be a new beginning.
I hope so.
I hope so too.
I hope so.
Just to quote Casablanca, this could be
if I can just add one thing, like the Bible says don't trust in men, and I'm not even really that much of a religious person anymore.
Right.
I do respect the Bible, but I don't think we have an understanding of it, and I think it's stupid to try to I shouldn't say stupid, but I just think it's kind of foolish to try to interpret it for other people. I think we should just try to interpret it for ourselves, you know. But now it does seem like some bad things are going to happen to the earth eventually. Even if take the Bible equation out of it.
Put the Bible back into it for one reason. After I read these 500,
I'm just trying to be fair to the audience. That's all.
Well, after I read 500 pages, it started with 1700. I started thinking of my own history knowledge, and there were some things that happened in the 1600s and 1500s, and even in the Bible. We have the nationalism of the nations of the Old Testament versus the globalism of Rome. So it's always that pendulum.
Right. And if you don't
somewhere, the individual's in there somewhere. Each of us are individuals, and we're in there somewhere. And we're going through this thing called history, and we're living it. And when you're living it,
and Pixie's right. Pixie's right. You should put the Bible back in because it deserves its place on its own merit. But
it does. I was just trying to be fair to the audience because I know that some people get like atheistic, maybe from reading Watchtower or.
There were many.
Just read it from atheists. Just read it. If you just read the Bible from a secular point of view, you're going to be fine. Because guess what? Yeah. Great secular minds have done the same thing, and they found what Pixie found. That Solomon was right. There's nothing new under the sun. It's a cycle. It just keeps going in a circle.
And these 17th century people that were bringing in equality, which was wonderful, even some of women's rights in the 1700s, long before the 1900s. Okay? Right. But what was
like a voting issue and stuff like that? Is that what you're talking about?
And you know, including women in this new notion that they had, you know, after the King of France, you know, and all. So
I think it was a week ago that there was a sister who talked about is the Bible sexist, and she brought up such beautiful points about
let me finish
and how much. Oh yeah. Go. I'm so sorry.
So then they're doing this equality thing, and it's great, and it's in France, and you know, but lots of people are dying if they were aristocrats. True, but even the atheists were using religion in a way because they were rewriting their slogans with kind of a utopia paradise ideal. So they'll use the same idea to sell you something.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, hon. I mean, it's always it always seems to be whether it's government or religion, it seems like they're selling you something, you know?
Yeah.
Now, I just want this thing about the left and right. I just wanted to say, I think it was Ronald Reagan that said, "There's no such thing as left and right. There's up and down." And it's true because because think about this. Right. If you think if in your life you think like Jesus says that your yes be yes and your no be no, anything outside of that is from the evil one. Either we're aspiring to be better human beings or we want to stay on the lower, you know, like cavemen. But the left and right, you can destroy people, you could divide us. But when you think up and down, you're not going to be divided. You're not going to be destroyed from within. But a left and right thinking destroys us because it pits us against each other. But an up and
you know
down,
what it is? Like, it's like we share the same
pants. There's a lot of divide and conquer.
We share the same pants, even if it's the left or the right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I found that to be.
So I couldn't predict with this. I read the 400 pages, and I used to be good at predicting the future, but with this reset, I can't predict anything anymore. Except that the price of groceries will be higher next week.
No one can predict anything, but we can get ideas of what is happening. Just like when we see Anthony Morris get removed, we know something's going on behind the scenes, and we don't know what it is, but we know something's going on. Same thing with our government. When things happen, we know something's going on. We're not being told the truth. You know, it's funny.
I'll say that.
Yes,
the greatest quote I've ever heard is from the financial analyst. His name is Ed Steer, but he said, "Things have been set in motion that cannot be undone."
Yeah,
that's where we're at right now.
Yep.
That's
it.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. You're down a road and you can't get off the road. That you got to follow the road all the way through, and that's what our government and the governing body and all of them and any political and religious organization. It seems like they're if they've had corruption in it, they're down that road and they can't get off of it. No matter what Watchtower wants to do, they can't get off this road. There's nothing they can do unless they apologize and said we were wrong, and they'll never do that. We know they won't.
No, CEOs don't do that.
So what I
yeah, exactly, and that's who they are.
So my advice is to buy cigars and a lawn chair and just watch it. Just let it go, man.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. The one thing that 3 brilliant men taught me in my life, 3 different periods, the same type of lesson appeared. Okay. We do not learn this in school. When you were in school, did anyone teach you and? It was always choose A or B.
What do you mean by that?
And. A rich man has surf and turf.
Oh, okay.
The perfect date is dinner and a movie. Very, very
Guess
rich
that's why
people.
I failed English.
Very, very rich people. No, we didn't learn this. In school, we learned, is it A or B? We learned or. The rich know and. Surf and turf, dinner and a movie. The patient could have ticks and fleas. This is what people know that have the PhD level. The peasantry is always grasping and has to choose. Do I get this at the market or that? But if you use and, you'll think in a brand new way and you'll say, oh. So, for instance, Toni Morse may have a problem with A and B. We don't know yet.
Alcohol and booze. Sorry, I had to do it.
Hey, he and Rutherford were right about one thing. Cadillacs are great.
Yeah, right?
Cadillacs, yeah, I want one.
You know, because I knew him and he knew something about auto body because I was in the business and he had me work on his car when he was my pioneer instructor 20 years ago. But, and I'm a broken record, but he had a nice like Buick back then, and that was all paid for, you know. And now he upgraded to a Cadillac.
They're both good.
And when he in the video, in the bottle beat video, when he goes to his car and he like wipes like a spot on his Cadillac, it triggered me because that's something he would do. He's very meticulous with everything that I learned from being around him for a week. You know, very strange individual, very hard on people.
There's not a lot of grace and mercy in that, is
because I fell asleep to his sermon on a Friday. It was the last sermon, the last talk of the Pioneer School. And by the way, Pioneer School is so boring. And he woke me up by saying, Brother Kubler, can you read the next paragraph? And I had no idea where we were. I was dead asleep. He humiliated me in front of everybody. You know what? I don't understand. I like it. It adds characters for my life.
I don't understand this about Anthony Morris. In tennis, there's a word called advantage. So you know the score, advantage.
Yep.
And so when the governing body removed Anthony Morris, the ball is in his court, so it's his serve, and he has a thing called advantage. So the fact that Anthony Morris hasn't said anything in a week, in 2 weeks, a month, the longer the days go by that he doesn't say a word, he loses his advantage. Because I think to myself, if I was in the governing body and they eliminate and they remove me, that would be the greatest thing that they could have done to me. Because I would have the advantage.
Yeah, right.
The ball would be in my court. And so he has to be completely incompetent, a really big drunk, or he has very bad advisors. Because if I would go to New York
if he got
City,
sober, he'll need 28 days or 30 days to get all that and get sober. But that's no guarantee he will.
But actually, it only to be honest with you, it only takes about 2 or 3 days to get sober.
Okay.
The 30. No, I'm speaking from experience. The 30 days is more for someone who really has a problem, and like like has to be away from their life, and there's the scene that was causing them this trigger to keep drinking. So
well, I was kind of thinking maybe he was there.
Yeah, I have a feeling, you know, to be honest with, like Rick says, don't cash it, don't bring it to the bank, you know. But I have a feeling that it was alcohol that he probably, I don't know. I have a feeling that he got drunk maybe somewhere he shouldn't have, you know, in front of people he shouldn't have. And I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what it could be? But we all have the evidence, don't we, of him going to the store. I mean, you know, for someone that has a problem myself, I drink beer and I battle it, and I try to, you know, sometimes I have too much, sometimes I don't. I try to keep it under control, but I can look at him and say, yeah, he's got a problem.
Well, I hope he gets a program, and I hope his life improves. But
yeah,
again,
we don't wish ill upon him, right?
He could have that problem
and turn around.
But again, he could have that problem and another problem. Please learn to use and. Okay.
Yeah.
Learn to use the and.
Yeah, and he was in the military, and that causes problems too.
There you go.
You know, I would be drinking if I was in the military in Vietnam.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Hello, Yep. But you're missing the point that this
is someone trying to speak up?
Surrendered all power.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is that Anthony Morris has all the power right now.
Yeah.
It's the ball's in his court. And the fact that he has abandoned that power speaks volumes.
Yeah.
Because Ray France used his power and he came back. See, that's what I'm saying is that anybody who was a CEO of a corporation that was, if this happened to him, he would be smart enough to know that he has the advantage.
Yeah.
Like for example, Donald.
Was someone trying to speak up? I don't mean to cut you off, Gilbert. Was someone trying to speak up?
That was me. That's Matthew from Australia. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say, so you were acquainted with Anthony Morris, like personally? Did you say was it Gilead, or was it through the Pioneer School, or what capacity?
It was Pioneer School. It was Pioneer School.
Right. So
yep, it was 20 years ago. He was a district overseer at the time. They don't have them anymore. I realize that, but that's what he was.
Right. Okay. Oh, I see. So it was in the local congregation, was it? In terms of like? Yeah, because I live in Nashville, but I'm from Rhode Island, and that's where Tony's from, Rhode Island. And we actually were in Marlborough, Massachusetts, when we had the Pioneer meeting, and the other brother of mine, but the other guy was Russell Sheldon, and he was a circuit overseer who his wife had just spontaneously left the organization and him and just split. And at the time, when you're a preemie, you know, physically and mentally, and you're like, oh wow, that's screwed up. But now I'm thinking, oh wow, she escaped her nightmare.
She was brave.
Yeah. Well, my question,
yes, sir.
I'm a fourth generation. I was a fourth generation Jehovah's Witness.
As am I.
Yes, and my great grandparents were part of the first Jehovah's Witnesses that ever became Jehovah's Witnesses in Cyprus back in the 20s, I think it was.
Oh, wow.
And they met and then they immigrated. My great grandparents immigrated to Australia, and when they immigrated to Australia, there was only, I think, about 5,000-6,000 Jehovah's Witnesses then in Australia. Now there's whatever. My point is, what I've always been fascinated by is the mindset of the leadership group, because from my access to the leadership group is that they're not true believers. I don't mean they don't believe, but not believe like the publishers believe. Like,
right.
It was always very how can I put it? Very much like what's the word? Very liberal view of their own faith.
So
they
the
do more
publisher
liberal
was
things.
saying,
They do more worldly things.
well, yeah. It wasn't so much the moral issue, but what I mean, I'll give you an example.
They weren't like completely plugged in.
Oh, definitely not. I'll give you an example. My dad was a servant around in the 1970s, and this old guy came.
Oh, wow. So like around 75? Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
yeah, previous to that. Anyway, long story short, I was out witnessing with this guy, and it was a shock of my life. It's the funniest thing ever. And I said, talking to me, and I said, look, my dad and everybody's been such a good example for me. And he said to me, I don't like your father. I never liked your father. And I went, what? He goes, he was the overseer or whatever doing the book in the 70s. And your dad cautioned about what was going to happen in 1975. And I went, well, isn't that what? No. He said, you were meant to believe, and then when it didn't come true in his mind, the brothers asked for forgiveness and they got the forgiveness. And I'm like, okay, right? So it was kind of like that. But yet, from my family's contacts by very prominent drivers' witnesses in Australia is the leadership group here in Australia was saying things like, well, that's what the brothers in America are saying. So there was always this distance, and I wonder with Anthony Morris is, in your opinion, was he one of those guys who was, yeah, well, officially we're saying the end's coming next Thursday, but maybe not. Was there that with him? Because he always seemed, from because he wasn't really known in Australia as such until broadcast came along, which has actually been really interesting as an apostate. And it's the most wonderful resource. It makes the most lazy apostasy you can imagine, because it's like, by the way, if you want to know what Jehovah's Witnesses are like, please go to jw.org. And it's like, wow, So my question to you is, was he a rusted-on JW who just believed down the line, or was he sort of above the publisher mentality? Can you give us a bearing on...
I think he's a controlling CEO.
Anthony Morris
I know, but I want to know whether he believes the generation stuff or...
You'd have to ask him. I can't speak for him there, but he seems gleeful when he talks about people getting destroyed.
Well, we know that. Yeah. Well, I mean, you've never had a barbecue like an apostate on a roast spit. So
there you go.
Knowing him personally, I mean, not like I know him really well. It was just that short time period. But I did work on his car for free as well. So there was two interactions. There was me going to his meetings, the Pioneer School, and then I went to, I think it was Worcester, or I don't remember where he was. He had a condo, and he had a Buick that was paid for from Watchtower, and I did some little tiny touch-up repairs just with some paint, and a brush and a squeegee, and just cleaned some stuff up on him for free. But the attitude that I get from him is a bully. It's just, I can't help to think of anything else because of that. I mean, when we were okay, we're here to learn to be better preachers, right? That's what Pioneer School is. Why in the hell is this guy talking about some dude's affair that he had, and he opened up the book to have the affair or not, and he happened to open it up? And I know I'm beating a dead horse. I've told this story, but Anthony Morris tells me, all of us, he opens it up and it says, flee from fornication. It was in that Gideon Bible at a hotel. And he cheated on or he had an affair with a woman and did it anyway. And Anthony is judging this man in front of us. And I don't even believe this story was true. I don't. I think they just make shit up. Pardon my French.
Did it have alligators? Did he have to walk over alligators after he left the hotel?
I know it. But it's just even the way when I fell asleep and the way he woke me up, he just has a bully attitude, you know. I can't help it. Like this guy just doesn't come off nice.
No,
and
great.
I was falling asleep through his sermon for a reason. It was boring as hell.
Oh, really?
A know-it-all? A know-it-all?
What's that?
A know-it-all?
I'm sorry? Know-it-all?
Is that what he was like, a know-it-all?
Oh, was he like a know-it-all? Yeah, kind of like a know-it-all.
What was his rank in the military? Do we know?
Yeah, he was a medic. Some not quite a surgeon, but I think a surgeon's assistant, something like that.
Medics usually are compassionate, but some of the officer corps get in corporate jobs later.
You see so much gore and violence that you get numb to it too. You know,
well, that's why he likes Armageddon. Then
I think so. When he's talking about crispy people, hot dogs, you know, set on fire. I mean, I think yeah. I mean,
can I ask you?
Yep.
Can I ask you one question? Just sorry, and thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'm so
Is this Brad from Australia?
No, it's Matthew.
Matthew, okay, because there's a Brad that calls in. Yeah, Matthew, go ahead.
Yeah, the question many of us ask, and I don't think you'll ever get to the real answer, but do you think that the governing body actually runs Watchtower, or are they, as I sort of think, that they're like the spiritual advisors to the bankers of Watchtower Corporation? Like, does it feel like that they run Watchtower? In my dealing with Jeffrey Jackson, Jeffrey just honestly, I've met him before. We actually had him before he was actually one of the anointed. Okay. Jeffrey was clueless, honestly. So, what's your take on it?
Can you say that again?
I don't think they could run a soda stand at the beach. I don't think they'd know how to run a bar, a soda stand, a cafe. I don't think they'd know how to sell coffee.
Correct. The answer is very simple. They are a corporation, and they're the corporation of Pennsylvania, New York. The shareholders, the board of directors, the majority stakeholders run it, and they have their figureheads. They have their employees. So just like any other corporation, Watchtower is the same. Yep. So you have people at key positions that are approved, and what do? They answer to the shareholders. That's why Watchtower doesn't answer to the congregation. They're not set up like that like other churches. Their corporate structure is set in a way where they do not answer to anybody other than the shareholders of Pennsylvania and New York, period.
Right.
Yep.
So I realise that but are so the governing body members, do they sit on the corporation board?
Well, they're kind of separate. They're kind of separated themselves from it, technically, on the technical era. That's why they're able to avoid court in the Australian Royal Commission. However, they get wise to it, and they caught what's his name, the guy from Australia. Forgive me for Jeffrey Jackson. Yeah, but they did not get Samuel Hurd, and they purposely have a president, and I don't know who the president is. I am very curious about that. They have a president for Pennsylvania, and I don't know who that is, and they do hide in their positions. It's very cowardly, and as a man, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and if anybody wants to ask about them, I'll tell them. And not that I want to just divulge and confess, but I'm just saying I'm man enough to make to admit a mistake, and you know what? And Wally did too. I just want to give a quick shout out while I'm thinking of him, and he's probably not on.
But Wally's a good guy, and he did a little prank on April Fools, and not everybody got it, and I even fell for it too. But he does such great work, and we all make mistakes. Who cares? Let's move forward and keep doing right by this XJW community.
To answer that question about how the corporation works, it's real simple. There's two types of leadership. You lead from behind, or you lead from up front. The president after Roosevelt, Truman says, the buck stops here. George Bush Sr. said, lead, follow, get the hell out of the way. Now, leading from behind is what communist types do. They have their little offices, and they're the controllers, and then they have their minions, like the people that dress real pretty and do the bidding. So Watchtower is an organization that leads from behind, whereas a different corporation, like say your company or whoever's company, you lead from the front. The owner is the go-to guy. So that's basically the two different structures. Watchtower leads from behind. Christians lead from up front. Like stops with me.
Very good point.
Simple.
Also, they are so old as a corporation that certain things were grandfathered in.
Right.
And they have so much money that the other side of the corporation is probably just a bunch of people counting it. That's my personal opinion.
Yes, you could be rich and poor. You just have your money somewhere else. And they're just, when they're saying that they're bankrupt in 2023, but they're not counting all of the money from the year, like what Dixie said, that they made in the last 100 years.
The religious side is begging, the other side is counting.
Correct.
Can I ask you a question, guys? Is when the Watchtower Society, for instance, was set up in Pennsylvania, and we know that CTR, Charles Hayes Russell, and his dad had a lot of shares, and that was private, okay, in various companies that later became, global conglomerates. And then after the separation of Russell to Maria, he basically put all of that into the Watchtower Society. Have we? Is any of those investments still within the Pennsylvanian corporation?
Probably.
Just question. Yeah.
Do you mean like Rutherford's time period?
Russell had $1 million when $1 million was worth $1 million. This is in the witness's own film. When he's portrayed as a young man in costume, it was a neat film. They said in their own material that he had $1 million when he left the haberdashery and went into the ministry. Now you invest $1 million way back in whatever year that was, and you put some interest to it.
Yep. Yeah, and he had
money.
He had
money.
He had two V12 Cadillacs, I think, or were they 16s? I don't know. It was something.
Well, that's
really
Rutherford,
huge.
but Russell was a rich man.
Who are you talking about?
Russell was a rich man.
Oh, Russell. Oh, I thought you were talking about Rutherford. My bad.
No.
I heard Russell was right. We heard from the program on this, from this program that he was like a bloodline of the Illuminati.
He was
possibly.
Russell Huntington bloodline. Yes.
So that's why this religion, and you can't call it a religion. It's really a cult. That's why it's a cult, because it started from garbage. It started from dirt. It started from pagan origins.
Well,
Foundation.
you have to look at the 1800s too again, and there were many people that wanted Zionism. I don't have an opinion one way or the other, but that 400-page history book noted that, and Russell was talking about that in the 1800s, and there were people all around the world that thought that was a great thing.
Mm-hmm. And so he was also feeding off of the pyramids Just like in the 1950s. Like, say you started a religion in the 1950s based off of NASA and the moon colony.
Right.
Because that was the latest thing. So the pyramids were a great piggyback into, and that's why people wanted to hear his speeches. It was genius.
And he could do 2 hours on stage. He was beloved, and people didn't have radio yet. He had the film that he did. So you got to look at that in context.
Correct.
Hello,
and
can I say something?
A lot of people left
when
Rutherford took it from after Russell died, and he took it from the people that were in Russell's will. They didn't get to do the editorial that he wanted them to.
Pixie, if you don't mind, I think someone's trying to
Okay, I'm done.
give a comment. No, you're okay. Someone wanted to get through.
Hi, good evening, everybody. This is JP from California. Yeah.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Hey, how's it going, buddy? Yeah, I was gonna say, like, going along with like what Pixie and them and Gilbert was saying, like when Russell came out, it was during a time which is called, like, during our period, it was like the Great Awakening, and that's when people were coming up a lot of their own ideas and breaking away from the main religions that were controlling people and their thoughts. And there was several like waves of the Great Awakening during its history. So I don't know if that's ending now and we're going into like some kind of like not a Great Awakening, but a Great Reset or something like that. Like it's a new like thought of thought that people are having based on what's going on now. But what's interesting, going back real quick to what they were saying, is that with what Russell was saying, and in his will, he was saying the corporation of Watchtower. I'm looking at it real quick, like in Crisis of Conscience, and part of his will, what he was saying, and this is a quote from his will, as what would happen to the Watchtower Corporation. He says, however, in view of the fact that in donating the journal Watchtower, Zion's Watchtower, the Old Theology Quarterly, and the copyrights of the Millennial Dawn Scriptures, Study Scriptures books, and various other books, book hymns, etc., to the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society. And this is the part that's underlined. It says, I did so with the explicit understanding that I should have full control of all the interests of these publications during my lifetime, and that after my decease, they should be conducted according to my wishes. But he ended up donating the Watchtower Magazine Corporation to whoever, was after that.
He had a will, and my dad was born in 1910, and he said to me, Rutherford took it. Rutherford waltzed in and did not go by the legality of Russell's will. He had men and women on his editorial board, and he did have women on the editorial board, that he wanted to take over his magazine. And Rutherford had a coup. The book Rutherford's Coup is dry, but very interesting. I've talked to the author, and Rutherford did what he wanted to do and rewrote the whole darn thing.
Or hostile.
Yeah, there were several. He was at least fifth or sixth in line that was supposed to take over the corporation of Watchtower.
And there was this one brother, they nearly put him in the nut house. I think they did for a while, and he was trying to keep it on the keel that Russell wanted. They pushed him out literally.
Now, so was his experience in law and stuff that allowed him to be able to come by the means to do that?
No, he was without ethics at all. He was not a good lawyer. He was not even a competent lawyer. He was a con man and brutal, and did it the way he wanted to and wrote it the way he wanted to. In Russell's day, everyone had a SIP. He put in the 2-class afterlife thing, and he put in the blood doctrine. He put in all these things that Russell never intended for it to have.
No, he did change the religion or cult quite a bit.
He did.
The no beard policy came from because he didn't like Russell having it.
Yep.
And then in Prohibition, when there was a Dust Bowl, and my family were in trouble in the Midwest and came east, he was in Beth Sarim with 2 Cadillacs, hot and cold running women, and whiskey from over the Canadian border.
Yep, you got it.
Can you remember?
You think it'd be a lie, but it isn't. Everything you said is true, sister.
Can you remember?
I try to boil it down as best I can and get it brief, you know.
Right. You did great.
Now, Pixie and Gilbert, I was gonna run this idea by you too, like what I was saying about the old thing that happened in the history of the Great Awakening and how all these people had these new ideas. Are we experiencing something like new like that, as opposed like this new like Great Reset or a New World Order thing that we're coming into? Is it like a new phase of ideas, which I believe that these people are trying to bring in? Which it was like, I think those old people that brought in that Great Awakening, which were people like Russell and other people that were part of these secret societies and Illuminists and part of the Illuminati and stuff, like, or is it this modern, people that are trying to bring this in now?
It's again the word "and." It's all of it and more. And from my reading, I think it's going to be what I call the feudal futile, because it's going to be the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And we've all done pretty well. Not everyone. Some people live in their cars. I've done well, and I know other people that have. But back in the feudal times, in the Middle Ages, it was rich and poor. There was no middle class. There was no idea that you could move up in life. And I think they'd like to have a feudal system. They're telling me now I can only get 2 bags of salad when I used to get 3. So
I'll answer that question. It's real simple. The year 1776 in history is a pivotal moment in the human experience. But the year 2023, 24, 25, I don't know what year it's going to be. But I think 1,000 years after that, whatever happens, people will still be talking about it. I think we're in the middle of something that's so huge that it's going to dwarf 1776. It's going to be even bigger. And 1776 was the fact that we don't need a king. We can self-govern. We have we could. It was a theory that we could govern ourselves. And
it was also the founding of the Illuminati too.
Correct, all that stuff. So I really do, to answer your question, I believe that we are in the middle of something so huge and so great. Whether we go to the good or to the bad, I don't know. But this moment of time that we live in is going to be big. It's big, and it won't be forgotten for thousands of years.
I really don't think it's going to be
Gilbert,
good for the individual
totally agree
because of the software.
I agree with you. I think we're in the middle of something monumental, like history.
This software, they're talking about ethical software because they've got this software now that's putting lots of people out of work. And it was reported 3 days ago that this software can lie.
Yeah. So if it can lie, it's sentient, maybe.
Well, it's not to be accurate and it's not to be trusted.
Now, I will tell you, this will make you guys feel a lot better. It's from Bob Hope, and he said, the good news is Jesus is returning. The bad news is he's really pissed off.
I've heard that.
You know what? That is the most, no, I have to be honest with you. That is the most honest quote that I've ever heard. Like, I don't know how to express myself in the moment, but like, I feel that way. I feel like Jesus and Jehovah or whatever you believe in, they're angry at humanity. And I think they're going to be loving to us in the long run, but I don't think it's going to be an easy road. It's just my personal opinion, because there's a lot of things that God has a reason to be mad at society or humanity for. And I understand that. And I'm part of it. We all are. We're all sinners. But we're trying our best, and we're here showing love to people and doing the best we can,
Another one for you is Bill Cosby said that, he was talking about Adam and Eve and everything. And then when Adam and Eve ate the apple, Bill Cosby says, God comes in, he says, okay, everybody out of the pool. and that's kind of like what we're in. Like, God's going to come down and he's going to say, okay, everybody out of the pool.
Yep.
You know,
like you're almost saying like his presence will tell us, hey, wake up, or correct yourself, right? They'll guide us in the right direction, because we're skinned about, not to be religious too much, but we're skinned and passed around, or whatever the scripture says.
If I can play the devil's advocate for just a second.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope and believe there is a Redeemer, just like we all hope and believe there is.
Right, sure.
But let me be devil's advocate for just a second. Mm-hmm. Maybe the people in 1776 were right. Maybe there isn't a supreme being, and maybe there isn't going to be Armageddon. If it's just man's control over other humans, we're in real trouble.
Yeah. Well, we know that man isn't going to be in control in the long run.
No, we believe and we hope. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. Right? We need the physical proof. Just like doubting Thomas, right? We don't, as Jehovah's Witnesses, we don't really know about doubting Thomas, but doubting Thomas doubted Jesus, and he said, I need proof, and Jesus gave him a miracle of some sort. So forgive me for not knowing the scriptures by heart, but he gave him the proof, and he swore his life to him after that.
And a wonderful story.
It's a wonderful story. We don't learn that as Jehovah's Witnesses, see, because it's all about control. They don't want you to critically think. They don't want you to do that. And I think it's so sad, because it's a beautiful part of the Bible. And I was really impressed to hear that. It was from Elaine, I think, JW Escape, maybe. I think that's the name of her program.
Yeah,
she's been on here before.
If you read the whole New Testament,
and she had a brother give a talk on it. What happened was he was disfellowshipped, and the elders in the local congregation didn't know he was disfellowshipped, and or faded, or whatever it was. I mean, he might have faded, I don't know. But they kept calling him to do a talk. So he said, okay. So he did a talk on doubting Thomas. And you can look that up on JW Escape to plug her. But I thought it was pretty cool. He infiltrated him. He got about 20 minutes into his talk until he pulled the plug and took him down. But he made a lot of good points. He said we should always challenge men, because we can't put our trust in men. And that's when they started to get serious on him, and they cut his mic and asked him to leave, and they figured out that he was no longer a witness. But I thought that was an incredible story, and I wanted to share that and plug her.
Jesus also said that there was going to be people that didn't need that proof, and he told that to Thomas. And what happens is I knew this when I was in 7th grade, and it's the definition of Hebrews 1. The definition of faith is the assured expectation of things hoped for, the evident demonstration of reality so not seen. So there's a lot of evidence that is out there, but sometimes we can't see the evidence. One, because our heart is filled with anger, our heart is filled with hate, and anger and hate blinds. But don't you remember when Jesus was here, he would always use that phrase, well, didn't you see this, or didn't you notice this, or didn't you see this? And a lot of times we don't see that there's proof, and really it's because we fill ourselves with things that blind us, and anger and hate are the two big cause. And we don't know. You didn't know as a Jehovah's Witness how angry and how hateful you were. That's why you were blind. But when you get rid of anger and you get rid of hate, it's like that dirt that Jesus puts in your eyes, and you can see things that you never were able to see before. So
I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, perfect statement. Coming from a family who has anger, like from generation after generation on both sides of my family, from being Jehovah's Witnesses. My dad was an ex-Mormon, converted to Jehovah's Witness. It didn't get any better, and he took it out on my father, and then that got down to me, and then I had to work out my issues from anger. But I was brave enough to say I have a problem, and not a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses are willing to do that. And that's something that I've noticed with the Jehovah's Witnesses, that they have a really hard time of self-reflection, a really hard time looking at themselves, because they think going out in a service and shunning their loved ones is sacrifice and they're good. And I feel so sad for that mentality.
There doesn't seem to be much grace and forgiveness in it, because I went and talked to the lady that was doing the Bible study, and she was harsh.
Yeah. Say that again. You were what?
She was harsh. Harsh.
No, like it was you were on a Bible study with someone?
Yeah, she was very harsh.
Oh, to the householder?
To me.
Oh, someone was studying with you and they were harsh to you.
And my mother was baptized in 1936, and she would have none of it. She told the woman. She told her. And then when she says, well, the governing body are Christ's brothers, my mother knew her Bible backwards and forwards, and she says, no, Christ's brother was James.
That's funny.
So there's your T-shirt. Christ's brother was James. That's our T-shirt.
Hello? So you mentioned about self-reflection.
Hello?
Yes, is the sister trying to speak? Let's let her through.
Hi, this is Hitley. How's everyone?
Hi, Hitley. How you doing?
Hey. Doing okay. Hi, Wixie. Hi, everybody. I just wanted to comment. I was listening for a few minutes. It seems like as though, and I have to agree with you guys and lady, that, Jehovah's Witnesses have like an arrogance or a narcissism, especially those who have titles, who have, as they call, privileges of service. They have that. And I remember when I was in, because I'm Pomo now, pleasantly Pomo as I call it, and they, I was dealing with them, they were the rudest, nastiest people. I mean, I was looking forward to going to school or to going to work, more so than going to meetings or the assemblies or the conventions, because I had to go and deal with these people and their nasty attitudes. Really, really nasty. It caused me to have anxiety, and it caused me to have stomach aches and headaches. When I left those areas, it seems like as though I was able to calm down, and my blood pressure went down. I mean, my vitals were when I dealt with the organization, was all over the place. And then when I left, it seems like, my doctors are saying, "Wow, you're doing well. I mean, what's your secret besides doing what we told you to do?" So I told them, well, I said, I just got myself out of an environment that was causing me a lot of stress.
My mother and father were very healthy in retirement when they quit.
Hilly, can I ask you, did you lose families from the disfellowshipping arrangement?
Ask that question again, I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. I was asking if you lost any family members from when you got disfellowshipped.
No, I never was. I'm not disfellowshipped.
You're not disfellowshipped.
I'm disfaded. But I had
okay.
I had about four.
Though, huh?
I had about 3 or 4 family members. 2 were disfellowshipped and 2 were disassociated. So I felt them. But I'm closer to them now. I mean, we're right as rain.
When you said physically out, mentally out, I thought maybe you were disfellowshipped. I didn't mean to assume.
No, that's okay. That's all right. That's okay. No problem. No worries.
I'm glad your stomach is better.
Yes, thank you, honey. And I understand what you said about retirement. When you retire, I retired from the organization before retiring, and I understand.
Mom and Dad got healthy when they left all that responsibility.
Wonderful.
My mother lived to be 102, and Dad lived to be 93.
Wow.
She was sick as an elder's wife.
Whoa!
As an elder's wife, she
honey.
was just, and I remember how sick she was when I was a kid, and I came to take care of her. I said, well, how's your stomach? She said, oh, I don't have that now.
Bless her.
Severe.
God bless her. True God bless her, that is.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Can I ask where you're calling from, Hilly?
New York City.
Oh, cool. No doubt. I miss the city. I'm from Rhode Island, and I used to go there pretty often with my wife. Yeah, and we go to begins with an A, and the Italian section of what the heck is it?
I think it's is it Astoria, Queens?
Yeah, around there. Yeah, but we used to go to the Italian section. Arthur Avenue? Yeah, Arthur Avenue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, Arthur Avenue, that's in, I think it's in Manhattan. But
Manhattan,
yeah.
Yeah. My wife's yelling at me and I can't hear her, but she's correcting me.
Hi, how you doing? Yeah, that's all I wanted to say, guys. It's great. It's really great, you know. Yeah.
The narcissism that you talked about? The narcissism.
Well, can I say something? Or,
Yes, ma'am.
Hello?
Go ahead. Go ahead, sister.
I think it's because people get healthy, it's because they're not pushing down on the natural feelings that humans have. And when you're in Watchtower, you're not allowed to use those feelings, those emotions. So you get sick because it manifests itself in other ways.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, very good point.
Also, I think you get sleep deprived and you have to go to so many meetings at night and it's look perfect and you got to have uncomfortable shoes and the hair's got to be right.
And they keep telling you that we're imperfect, but you have to live a perfect life. So how are you going to put an imperfect person into a perfect mold when there isn't one?
Thank you. And they really don't know what actual perfection is.
Exactly. And having them as models, that is far from perfection as you can get, with all the secrets that they keep hidden themselves that are now coming out to light.
Wow. Isn't it something that we have? We have all these high standards that Jehovah's Witnesses have to obey by, but now Tony Morris, after all of his years or decades of him berating us, now he's not a governing body member. Do we take him serious now? You know, hypothetical, of course. Of course we don't. But it's a hypothetical for all the PMQs or PMOs or, PMEs or PMOs.
Do you think it might have something to do with him being connected to the Philip Morris company, that they wanted to separate him from that? Philip Morris, the tobacco company.
Philip Morris. Oh, yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Are the ones who own it. Yeah.
Yes, in their stocks. So maybe they separated him from it.
Because I do know a little bit about him. He told us in the Pioneer School that his father is or was, I think he's passed away by now, but this was 20 years ago. His father was CEO of some kind of company and had a lot of money.
Well, there's your elite.
So I never really thought misappropriated funds when he was buying his
elite going
whiskey.
way back.
What's that?
I said that cigarette company's elite going back to 1620.
Yeah, it's very possible that his dad actually owned that. I don't know enough about it. I'm assuming. Yeah, or part of it, or stocks or something. But
the thing that dawned on me.
He said his dad was wealthy because his dad, what he said was, this was his talk and it was recorded. I don't have it though. But he said, he kept saying, the father kept saying to Anthony Morris, what are they doing with all that money? What are they what are they doing with it? There's so much money left over. What are they doing with it? And he goes, listen, I'm part of the they. It ain't happening. And that's a talk that I could dig it up if to prove myself. But yeah, it's a talk that he said, and he's part of the they, and it ain't happening. But
quite the quote.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what he did with the funds. I don't think he misappropriated them necessarily, but he definitely comes from
it all up.
His fault.
Charles rate cases.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, that to me that's misappropriation.
Bringing some comedy to this.
That's where it went.
McAllen's. Scotch.
Does anybody know where it is?
You know, but you know the thing that dawned on me this week? If we're not perfect, with the witness formula, we're not given any formula to get perfect. We're not given grace or forgiveness or 12-step or anything to get us out of how bad we were feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that goes back to what my belief is like on the narcissism you were talking about earlier and the 12-step program. That one of the greatest things that I've learned, and I've never been an alcoholic, never have, but I went to Alcoholics Anonymous because I wanted to know about how they run their meetings. And I had an epiphany that it's real simple. Hi, my name is Gilbert Gonzalez. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness idolater. I worship human beings. And this is what Jehovah's Witnesses can't do. They can't say their name and admit that they used to be.
You did that? Really? That's incredible. I don't mean to interrupt you, Gilbert, but I think that's incredible.
My name's Pixie. I'm no longer a preachaholic.
See, now, if you were to just do that, if you were to just look at a mirror and say your name and just openly tell yourself what a fool you are, all your baggage, just you to you, you'll feel so much better, and that's when the healing begins. Now, do you understand why I'm GG for GB? I mean, really, I'm not just kidding. But just do that. Just look in the mirror and just tell yourself all of the baggage that you have, all the hate, all the anger. And guess what? It starts going away when you just admit it to yourself. And then if you need to admit it to somebody else, well, then that's up to you. But and that's why Jehovah's Witnesses are in the predicament that they're in. Because you talk about perfection. You want perfection? Openly confess your sins, and you'll start down that road of being perfect.
Gilbert, what a powerful comment that you left. Can I add to just that? Like, I've been to Alcoholics Anonymous, and I told them that I was ex-Jehovah's, or that I am ex-Jehovah's Witness, and that I was one, and that it was a cult. And I explained to them what it was, and I told them, all of them, right? I'm looking at all these alcoholics and drug addicts, and myself included, and I'm looking them in the eye, and I said, can you believe that this organization that I come from will disfellowship you / shun, excommunicate, whatever makes sense to you, but that's the word, disfellowship or shun you, for going to AA, and they gasped. There were people there, old women gasping, because this is the most help that you're ever going to get. I mean, when you have a problem. And it's just despicable that Watchtower would do that, because what it's doing is it's not promoting self-growth. It's promoting, like, all right, hey, Eric Kubler, right? I never got disfellowship for this, but Eric Kubler is fellowship because he's an alcoholic. And then it's like, all right, I'm going to drink more. I'm just being honest with anybody out there that's ever been disfellowship with that. That's the situation. It's disgusting that they don't promote self growth. What is it? Because we look bad because we have a problem? It's a beautiful thing to come together, and these people are all the 12-step program is all about religion and God and Jesus, and they intertwine it. And I don't totally agree with it, but it's still a good thing. And I just find it absolutely despicable.
Think about it in this manner. You are a parent, and you told your child not to do something. Now think about how the Watchtower phrases all their paragraphs, like they're talking to a third grader. Now you were bad, so now you go in the corner and you stay there until you apologize. And it's up to the parent to decide how long that child stays in the corner, whether or not the kid comes out and says, I'm sorry, mommy, I'm sorry, daddy. No, you didn't learn. Get back in the corner. Look at how many years you got to stand in that corner.
The same thing, right?
Didn't do what they wanted.
It doesn't do anything but teach more shame. It doesn't change behaviors.
Exactly.
It doesn't help you with the behavior that got you there.
Was that Sharon from North Carolina?
Yes, it is.
Oh, you're not from North Carolina. Where are you really from? Because you got an accent like I do. I'm from Rhode Island, and we talk like it's
I'm from
wicked
Long
dark.
Island.
Yeah, I know you are. You're from New York.
Oh, yeah.
I never say I'm from Nashville. I live there. I'm from Rhode Island.
I'm transplanted.
Love you, honey.
I love you too.
I always love your comments. You're a beautiful soul.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
for coming
you.
on.
Wonderful. Yes, she's wonderful. Yeah, you're wonderful. Yeah, hey.
Yes, speak up. Is someone trying to talk?
Yeah, hi, Eric. This is Constance. I just wanted to say hello to everybody.
Hi.
To my sis.
Hi, Constance.
Hi, Constance.
Hey.
Anyway, I was going to say one thing that's very interesting. Your topic is, you know, whenever you go to a 12-step program, any kind, it doesn't matter, AA, Narcotics Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics, any of them. One of the 12 steps that they teach is the importance of being honest. Because a lot of times when people are very dysfunctional, just say, for example, if someone has a drinking problem, one thing that they do use as their coping mechanism is lying. And so you will find with the 12-step programs that they really emphasize the importance of honesty with yourself and honesty with others. And how that relates
do you mind expounding upon what you mean by like lying? Like how do the alcoholics lie?
Oh, just
I'm
like
not challenging you. I'm just probing.
I don't take it that way at all. No, I'm very secure, so I don't take that as a threat. I was going to say
it's conversation.
Yeah, say for example you're hungover and it's, you know, Sunday night and you got to go to work Monday and you call in and you say, oh, you know, I've got the stomach flu, or, you know, I can't come into the office today, where they're really hungover and they can't tell the boss, you know, I had too much to drink.
I got you. Like you're in denial, the denial stage, right? Is that what you're getting at?
In denial, and that ties in with them not being, you know, 100% honest, right? That's deception. So they're not even honest with themselves. So why would they be honest with someone else? So my point is, in terms of Watchtower, you know, with the JWs, you know, they stuff their feelings. When it comes to, let's just take some examples. Maybe they're committing adultery. Maybe they're dishonest with a business transaction. Maybe they have issues with stealing. Maybe stealing something, you know, from work, whatever. Because we know that there are JWs that have two different kinds of lives. They have a life where they, you know, go to the Kingdom Hall and they act real perfect, and then they have another life on the side. So my point is that when you stuff all those emotions, you don't even have to be a JW to do this, but we're talking about the JWs. When you do this as a person, you know, you stuff all these emotions, it has some serious ramifications on your psyche. And as a result, it manifests itself with physical illnesses. It's just like, say, for example, somebody is a diabetic, you know, and their insulin is really off. They have high glucose levels. Well, one thing the body will manifest is that you break out in rashes, like, say, for example, psoriasis. Psoriasis can be an example of that. Your body is really off balance, and you've got some serious health issues that you need to address. And if you don't, you're going to run into more serious health issues. Well, the same thing is true with the JWs. With the JWs, you know, if they don't deal with being honest and they're trying to go to the Kingdom Hall and always trying to act like they're perfect and they're so self-righteous over everybody else, it has some serious ramifications with their mental health, and then, of course, with their physical health as well. So
I was totally anorexic.
I totally agree with you, Connie.
I was so anorexic.
I was just talking to somebody this last week, one of those people that just came out and told me about the elders that had molested her. And she was telling me how many people she knows in the congregation she was in when she left New York that were on all these antidepressants. But once they left, it's like they didn't need them anymore. Right? They didn't need them.
Right.
there's a lot of sisters that are on antidepressants, and there's a lot of brothers that are alcoholic.
Can I ask?
Oh, yeah.
Are you saying that like?
That's true.
Are you saying that like when they left the organization, they didn't need the antidepressants anymore?
Yes, she said they stopped using it, and she was one of them that she just stopped. She said, I didn't feel the need for it anymore. She wasn't depressed.
I have a question for Constance or anybody out there.
This is happening. Oh, go ahead. Is someone trying to talk? Sorry.
Yeah, this is JP again. I have a question.
JP.
I have a question either for Constance or any other one of the sisters I want to talk, but I was associated a little bit with like some of those programs like AA and NA, like trying to get help for some stuff from problems that I had earlier in my life. And they have those 12 steps, which I think are they're good, you know, the 12 steps in themselves, but the program, I always felt now actually from waking up that they're kind of like seem like a cult. Like, what do you think about that? Like, because when I was there, I think the 12 steps are good, but they always want you to get like a sponsor and check in with them and call them every day, like spill your life. And then do you think those kind of programs kind of like resemble like a cult or something too?
Some people.
Do you want me to be honest with you?
Are there other ways
if I can, JP, can I be honest with you? Yeah, I do actually. I'm kind of turned off by it.
That's what I was thinking.
I've only made one meeting, and although I felt encouraged, I got love bombed, and it felt like Jehovah's Witness stuff. And I
got love bombed too. A lot of numbers.
Yeah. And like everybody wants me to be with the sponsor, and I don't know this guy, and he's got tattoos everywhere, and I don't care. I mean, dude, one of my really good friends had a tattoo on his face. I don't care, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know these guys. I don't know. I don't know. It's. I do appreciate.
It's resemblance to like a cult, like an org, like you get love bombed.
They showed me love, and they were kind. Go ahead. I don't want us to talk over each other.
Is there like a graduation from that what, like, you completed it and you're able to move on, where you're not going to go back to that anymore?
Kind of, but it seems to be that there's always people coming by to tell their story, and they like to talk, and it kind of like Six Streams, to be honest with you. People just tell their story and what goes on. And you know what? It was healthy. I got to tell people, I got to warn everybody there about Jehovah's Witnesses. And I'll tell you what, nobody was impressed that they shun AA. Because you know what? Let's face it. Even if AA doesn't, like, even if it's not perfect, at least it's something, right? What did Jehovah's Witnesses do? Get the out. You're done. You lose your family, go drink some more. We don't care. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead to us. That's not these people. These people accept me in, and I ran into someone at the store one time, and they said, "Hey, come back to the next meeting." I mean, you know, I don't know.
So do you think those groups are kind of like culty or what?
Yeah, they are.
I'm not talking about the steps that they give, but the group in itself, it's kind of culty. Like they want to like get your information and then like control your life, kind of. And
well, to be honest with you, this is a Baptist church, and I didn't get that vibe. Just to be honest with you, but they did want me to have a sponsor. You know, they wanted me to have a sponsor, and I didn't want that.
So in other words, you're not like trusted to do things on your own, where you're able to control your own self. You need somebody else to help you to control yourself. Is that what it is? I don't know, because I don't drink, so I don't know.
You know what?
Yeah, that's what they kind of want to do is like to check.
I don't really know much about it
and
because I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to. I'm not going to report to somebody. If I'm going to cheat and have a drink, I'm just going to have a drink. None of your business.
Yeah, but what do some of the sisters that were calling in think about that? Anybody have a comment on that?
Maybe with codependency.
Was someone trying to come in?
With somebody's being dependent, maybe they feel that people should, kind of like have somebody they could depend on and have like a buddy system or something like that. And maybe to a certain point that helps, but like you said, it could be a little culty. And about Watchtower doesn't help anyone anyways. But then some witnesses may feel that they could go to something like that for a little while and then leave and do, whatever they feel they have to do.
Right. Or could we just be extremely hypersensitive to things like that now, where we're always going to have that wall up?
Yeah. Can I answer that question?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, it's real simple. And I'm gonna put it in words that he can understand, because there's cults everywhere, and it's just a natural part of life. But real simple. There's a thing called Budweiser and Bud Light. So Watchtower is like Budweiser, and Alcoholics Anonymous is like Bud Light. There's a lot of Bud Lights out there, light cults, and it's okay. But as long as you know and you can identify it, you'll be safe to maneuver through them, because you already been through the Budweiser, the top. You've already had the top cult. So all around our lives, you see cults everywhere. But now that you know it, you're able to maneuver through the ones that are not so harmful, in my opinion. So yeah,
was that Gilbert talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, Gilbert, I totally agree. I totally agree, because I made a point on Rick's show when he did when he had a show about it was Christmas Day, and the point that I made on his show was like, okay, Christmas is pagan. This fellowshipping arrangement / shunning is pagan. Even their own literature says it in a 1947 Awake article. So I'll take the pagan custom that unites family and brings happiness and gifts and love over a shunning hatred practice that divides the family and destroys everything in its way, right?
Now you
right?
get
If
it.
everything's pagan, then take the good pagan. I don't know.
You get it. You got it.
Yeah, well, at least when you go to AA, if you break your 30, your sobriety, they won't shun you. You just start over again on your 30 days, even if you have a year or whatever.
Yeah, could you imagine if I went to if I was an active Jehovah's Witness and I went into my Kingdom Hall publicly, not even to the elders, like out loud to everybody, and I said, I'm an alcoholic. Someone help me, please. Gone. Right?
Yep.
Now if I do that with this other religious group, they accept me. I mean, I can't bash I can't bash the 12-step program, even though I don't like the religious aspect of it. And yes, it does feel culty. At least they accept you. Jehovah's Witnesses throw you out and want you to drown in your sorrow, drown in your booze, drown in your drugs, or whatever your problem is, and it's disgusting.
Is it one religion, or is it any religion that does the 12 steps?
I know Baptists and Catholics do it. I don't know who else does.
Are you talking, sister, like the people that sponsor it, like in the church? Because I know sometimes when I would have to go, they would have certain churches would sponsor it. But you would never see like an AA meeting or something like at a Jehovah's Witness church. But there was a lot of them like a Baptist church and other ones like non-denominational where they would actually open up their halls or their building up to people for that wanted to try to recover and stuff. But you never see that in a Kingdom Hall or something where they would
definitely not. So is this more like
no, they would never open up their doors to let a bunch of
thing, or do they push a religion on you when you're doing this?
No.
Is it more like a conference room?
There's no religion pushed on you now.
No.
It just kind of dives into the Bible a little bit, and it's religious in that way. It teaches you how to have a relationship with God and to forgive you for your sins and to help you with your alcohol problem. But I get kind of tired of hearing that rhetoric. But in my opinion, I think it's positive. I felt positive when I left there. That's a good thing, right? If you leave from a place. For some reason, they were doing some painting, and it was all outside, and it was a nice night and a nice breeze. And we all had good conversation, and some people don't even talk. It's not even about religion a lot of times. Some people just talk about their problems and how they've struggled
to be sober, and I thought it was pretty encouraging.
Those kind of programs, they want to reach out more like to anybody who's been religious or not religious, but what they really go by is what they call is your higher power, and it's what they describe it as something that you see as like something greater than yourself, whether it's your belief in God or whatever else. That's what a lot of those like 12-step programs try to. Ultimately, that's what it's based on, but they do try to reach out in like some religious aspects, but ultimately they try to reach out to everybody, regardless on their religious background or no matter what.
I just wondered where that phrase came from. I didn't know it was AA.
Is someone trying to speak up here? I heard someone say Eric. Yes, sir.
Yeah, Eric, that's Dick Borgie again. I just like to. How are you?
Good, man. How you doing? You having a good night?
I'm doing fantastic. We're having a great night here.
I always like hearing from you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. Appreciate that. My former religion, which was after I left Jehovah's Witnesses, I went into the Methodist religion. Every single night, we had a big church, and we had a whole bunch of rooms upstairs. And one night, they call it Celebrate Recovery. It wasn't just for alcohol. They had another group for Allion, which is drugs. They had another group that met if you had a problem with porn, another group that met if you had a problem with gambling, another group with lust, and another one for, they had about 12 different, we call them life groups. And I was blessed to conduct divorce care. And
so it's like an addicting group, huh? Like whatever the addiction may be. Is that correct, Dick?
Exactly. And we had church never made a nickel on it. There was, I think, some workbooks with some of the programs, and they were like $2 or $3. So it wasn't a money maker, and it would be open to the community. You didn't have to be a Methodist. You could have been any kind of religion. You just come to the church, and they'll feed you spiritually. And usually the information that you got, at least with divorce care, was done by professional marriage counselors, and they all had graduated from the seminary, and they've written books on the subject, and we had videos that we used to show. So what I used to do is I was just the facilitator. I really wasn't a teacher of that. I just got people to, I read the questions and people answered, a little like the Watchtower. But in the Watchtower, if you have these kind of problems, and this is the point that I really wanted to make, if you have any of the problems I just alluded to, you hide it, because if you don't, you'll be publicly reproved, disfellowship, they'll take your privileges away. They have to be mean to you. At my former church, again, the Methodist, people would come up and, they'd have altar calls that say, I drank last night. So we pray with them, things might keep coming up. Yeah, I cheated on my wife again, and I'd like to have some prayer. And we don't say, we have a judicial meeting, and we're going to punish you, and we're going to let everybody know that you're a sinner. I mean, we all have a sin nature, except those elders don't think that anybody should, because they're the most hypocritical. Not all of them, and I don't want to paint with a white paintbrush. But I had worked with them on a secular job.
What are you saying? Not all of them are hypocrites, the elders?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying there is a lot of...
Well, good for you, because I feel like they all are at this point. I don't trust it out there, and I never will.
Well, I think you have good reason. But I didn't want to, stereotype every single elder as a super lion, sex
You know, I feel bad, Dick. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I feel bad for saying that about elders. There have been some good elders in my life, but I've watched them turn. And the ones that didn't turn, they got removed. And like it's almost like bad association spoils useful habits. This elders book, Shepherd the Flock of God, is poisoning the minds of these men that actually have like good potential. You know what I mean? I don't mean to interrupt you. Sorry.
No, Eric, you make a really good point. I'd just like to add to that if I could. There's a picture that one of the elders said to me, and I don't know where it is right now, but basically what it says is, whatever the elders forgive, will be loosened in heaven. So it kind of lets them think that our Heavenly Father has to follow the lead of these men that are appointed. And that's so ludicrous, but that's what they believe. So they actually put themselves above Jesus Christ. So you have to be forgiven.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Hello? And,
someone trying to talk.
I agree with Dick Borgie, you know, what he's saying, because again we bring it back to Rutherford. Rutherford was the one that kind of created how the dynamic.
If someone can mute their phone, I think there's some background noise going on.
Yeah, I know that there's an echo. Now I was just going to say this real quick. That it goes back to Rutherford, who, you know, created this damning dynamic of how, you know, witnesses are supposed to be. And so the elders, and it comes all the way from the top, from Morris all the way down, have these kind of nasty attitudes, you know, that makes a lot of people feel that, well, hey, why should I even confess my sins? Why should I even tell anyone? You know, and that's why a lot of, you know, witnesses are fading out too, because if they know that if they say something, you know, if they see something, say something, it's going to be a bad thing. It's not going to be a good thing, you know.
Hey, Eric, this is Rick at the Six Screens control panel here. We're going a little overtime here tonight. We got Linda James on deck here, so she's going to be coming in. So why don't you take a couple of minutes and wrap the program up, and we're going to go to Pasta Babe's program.
Sure. I'll wrap it up. And thanks for everyone calling in tonight. It's been a great program, or I hope it is. And I thought I would say about being red-pilled from the Watchtower, that we need to awaken up, and it may be uncomfortable. The pill might not taste the greatest. It might not be the best way to go. But my wife gave me something because she knows I'm a Star Wars nerd, and I'm going to wrap this up real quick. And there is a connection between, if you follow Star Wars at all, there's the Mandalorian, and the Mandalorians have the way. This is the way. And somebody out there on YouTube put a bunch of clips where they said the way, the way, the way, and Watchtower kept saying it over and over again. And the whole show, they even have an episode called The Apostate. And the whole show triggers so much to me when I'm watching it. And I'm like, wow, this is Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are the creators of it. And I can't help to think that they must have some kind of inside information, whether it's Jehovah's Witnesses or Latter-day Saints or whatever cult it may be, Scientology, who knows. But what a strong connection. And I always like to take movies. I'm a little bit of a nerd and tie it together. And I guess that's why it's the name of my show is Red Pill from Watchtower. But Rick and everyone else who supported me tonight, thank you so much for calling in. And I'll leave it up to, hey, I'm Eric James, so we'll that's my middle name, and we'll leave it up to Linda James. Thank you so much, y'all.
Well, there you go. Thank you very much, Eric. Great program tonight. Lots of people. I mean, really lots of people coming in. So that's what we like to see here on the network. And we want to thank all those people for calling into Eric's program. That's very meaningful, and that makes Eric happy. It makes me happy. And it's good to hear so many voices coming into the Six Screens tonight. Well, don't you guys go anywhere. We have got a pasta babe. She's your favorite apostate. She's coming up next right here on the Six Screens Network. So by all means, hang in here with us. We're going to end this broadcast right now. Thank you for coming in tonight to Red Pill from the Watchtower.